Oh boy, we're gonna need a ton of coffee for this one! Welcome everybody to a brand new Chronexialogy Mobile Suit Gundam, the Nightmare Edition. Quick reminder that this is a spoiler-free guide. My name is Misty Chronexia, and I must warn you, this is a behemoth of a video. It will cause you severe migraine, possibly seizure, and at least 1 or 2 reported cases of death. I suggest you take this video in stride or it will melt your brain. Now, if we're gonna have a chance of at least getting somewhere in sorting out the timeline of the Gundam franchise, I have to omit certain entries, meaning we will not be covering the light novels, the manga, or the whole Hesdig Gundam sub-spin-off. But don't worry, that will still leave us with plenty to sort out. While this guide may offer certain recommendations, at the end of the day, it's still your time. If you want to watch one that I skipped over or neglected, go for it. This is just meant to try and ease up the confusion or get possible newcomers into the series. So please, hardcore veterans, we're on the same team here. If I missed something, point it out in the comments below and I'll pin it. If this is already starting to confuse you, here's a TLDR version of the whole thing. Watching Gundam in the broadcast order is never gonna be wrong, which is why I'm gonna start with that angle. But as for the actual chronology, well, there's a few things you need to know. First off, a lot of the Gundam anime are self-referential. Secondly, when it comes off to the timeline itself, there's several branches. You have the Universal Century, known as UC, that's divided in early UC and late UC, but that's still pretty linear. Then there's the AU, short for Alternate Universe, all with standalone individual timelines, like Cosmic Era or Anno Domini, and, well, if I keep listing them off, I'll lose you. So instead, let's do the broadcast order first, along with my input on each one, and then we'll get to the actual chronology after. Jump to this timestamp if you just want the chronological order of titles, but I still strongly suggest watching the entire video for the full picture. Let's go! The broadcast order began with Mobile Suit Gundam, aka Gundam 0079, or 79 for short. My recommendation would also have you start by that one. Overall considered to be the must-watch classic with a great story and amazing characters, perfect for getting into the franchise, provided you don't mind a bit of dated visual. Considering this was made up in, well, you guessed it, 79. If that's too killer for you, I recommend the 3 movies reboot they made of it, with updated visual, to the expense of a quicker pace. You get 3 movies instead of 43 episodes, so of course some stuff is left out, but it's a compromise you gotta make for better visuals. Your call, truly. Following 79 is Zeta Gundam, a sequel in the early Universal Century, featuring a realistic portrait of people in wartime. Great action scene, cool fight sequence, rich characters, although many can be sometimes annoying. After that came Mobile Suit Gundam ZZ. ZZ is one people just don't like as much. The tone is much lighter, sometimes even silly. It does get serious every now and again, but it doesn't really share the same spirit the other two did. Mobile Suit Gundam Shadows Counterattack. Shadows Counterattack is the first fully dedicated movie to the Mobile Suit Gundam franchise that adds to the lore. Heavily character-driven, amazing fight scene, and very high quality considering the era it was made in. Next came Mobile Suit Gundam 80, War in a Pocket. War in the Pocket is a tamer entry, but it still depicts the atrocity of war. Less action sequence in this one, but incredibly powerful and very solid storytelling. A very good starting point for those who care less for the actual mecha battles. Next is Mobile Suit Gundam 83, Stardust Memory. A bit of a loner compared to the other ones, incredible visuals, very detailed work and animation, but characters can be erratic sometimes. It follows the early Universal Century bundle, just like the rest. Mobile Suit Gundam F91. This one is a hit or miss. It happens in the late Universal Century, so you don't exactly need the previous one, although we still recommend it. Cool Gundam design in this one though. Following is Mobile Suit Victory Gundam. Victory is kind of forgettable, more of a completionist endeavor. It has good moments but tend to be overshadowed by simply better titles. Nothing makes it stand out particularly, but it isn't one of the worst either. Mobile Fighter G Gundam. G Gundam is a bit more high octane. It strays from the formula so far, but it has good characters and the plot is pretty philosophy heavy, which is a good thing in this case. New mobile report, Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing is one of the high-tier Gundam series, excels on a lot of front, with good cast, very flashy battle sequences, plot has good political richness, and it's probably the first franchise since the original 79 to rival in terms of quality and presence. Following Wing was Gundam Wing Endless Waltz, a 3-episode OVA that was somewhat of a sequel. There's also a movie counterpart to this exact one that I would recommend watching over the 3 OVAs since it offers additional scenes for better clarity. This wraps up the After Colony alternate universe, not to be confused with Future Colony that G Gundam was from, both standalone separate timelines you can watch in either order. Next is After War Gundam X. After War is one that got cancelled a little bit after the halfway point. Despite that, they managed to wrap up the story quite nicely in the last 3 episodes. Got a great romantic subplot and the usual action sequence quality. Mobile Suit Gundam the 8th MS Team. Top tier OVA from the early Universal Century, like War in a Pocket and Stardust Memory. It can be watched as a standalone, but the entire Universal Century I feel follows somewhat of a linear pace, so I'd pick it up after watching the previous one you've seen so far. Again, it's a very good one. And then there's Turn A Gundam. Turn A Gundam is a masterpiece. It is from the correct century, which is its own alternate universe timeline, but because of that reason alone, it should be viewed as the absolute last one you're gonna pick up. So many reference, stunning action sequence, cool mecha design, orgasmic soundtrack. Treat yourself to end with one of the best out there. And then there's whatever this one was, Gundam G Savior. Probably regarded as the worst considering it's a Western live action production and not a mainline title. While it does happen during the late Universal Century, it's so far back it doesn't really matter. It's a movie with low budget, very few action scenes, poor acting, and overall, like I said, just not really worth your time unless you're a completionist. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed. Then we enter the Seed branch, which is where a lot of people started on. Seed is a standalone. It's very easy for a newcomer to get into it since it has teen melodrama and isn't as politically heavy. Overall, Seed is quite well received, and for anyone not interested in the whole scope, or if you just want to dip your toe in Gundam, Seed is a safe entry. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Destiny. Destiny is essentially a follow-up to Seed, but if you took all of its qualities and flaws and you doubled their intensity. Not loved as much as Seed itself, but still a cool follow-up if you want more of the first one. Mobile Suit Gundam Seed Cosmic Era 73 Stargazer, a sequel to Seed Destiny. Not much to say about this one. If you like Destiny and you want more, then try Stargazer. But if you made it this far and you like Gundam, then I'd say just pick any other timeline altogether. Gundam Evolve. I'm including Evolve in this list, but in all honesty, you might just skip it unless you like more content. It's canon and filler at the same time. It doesn't connect to anything specifically, it's just a mixed compilation of short battles and CGI. Mobile Suit Gundam MS Igloo. Back to the early century. We're jumping all over this place. Mixed reception for this one, but it's pretty important to not skip it. Only 9 episodes and a take on the engineering side rather than the soldier one. Mobile Suit Gundam 00. 00 is divided in 2 seasons, 1 and 2. You put them together and it goes without saying that you should start with season 1. If you want my personal opinion, 00 is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite. The characters, while hard to like at first, end up paying out in spades later. I am also very fond of the mech design in this one, and good lord do I dig the soundtrack of this show. Again, probably one of my favorite titles. Mobile Suit Gundam 00 Awakening of the Trailblazer. Trailblazer wraps up a few plot points that were left unanswered. This introduced aliens, which is a different take than the previous Gundam. Viewer reception is a bit all over the place. Conservatives don't like it, but I enjoy the change of pace. Then again, I'm a big sucker for Anno Domini timeline, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. Gunplay Builder Beginning G. I'm mentioning this one, but again, I don't feel like it's too canon. As the title implies, this one is geared towards people interested in building Gundams with model kits. Lots of design and a fair amount of action for a 40-minute short, but it's just not like the rest. Mobile Suit Gundam Age. Age is a big bowl of oof. I didn't really like it. It's dumbed down for a simpleton. It's overly crammed into itself. There's a bunch of plot holes and the characters aren't particularly likable to me. Robots did look cool, but it was a bit tough to watch all the way through. Thankfully, since it's in the alternate universe, you can spare yourself this one if you're not a hardcore completionist again. Mobile Suit Gundam Unicorn. Unicorn goes back to the early Universal Century. It came out a bit after 00 when I got into Gundam, and it's also one of my favorite. They kept the quality high, and it is an absolute cornerstone of the Universal Century. This is one you simply can't skip. Highly recommend it once you've seen up to Stardust Memory. Gundam Build Fighters. Hang in there, we're almost through. Just like Gunplay Builder, Build Fighters focus on building your own model kit instead of the nitty-gritty dark war tone the franchise is renowned for. It's cool to have something a bit more lighthearted here, and with 25 episodes on the counter, you get a really rich experience that gives you nostalgic mechs in a brand new high quality. Very rewarding to pick up after you've seen all of the older ones. Gundam Build Fighter Tri. Tri is the sequel with a new cast. Nothing really new to say since they add a bunch of new characters. Many suffers from being underdeveloped, but not a catastrophic setback. If you like Season 1, you'll probably enjoy this one too. Mobile Suit Gundam San. Not relevant to any timeline, just a comedy compilation of skits with the characters. Think Isekai Quartet or Carnival Phantasm. It exists and I mention it, but it's just a mediocre self-referential mumbo-jumbo that will only appeal to the absolute completionists, and even then, maybe not. Gundam Reconquista in G. Probably the second worst Gundam anime out there. If you thought Age was bad, Reconquista is in a league of its own. It's utter chaos, characters are borderline obnoxious, the soundtrack is lackluster. The visuals are nice, but it's not enough to save itself from the erratic pacing, and it just doesn't feel like a standard Gundam anime. Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. Despite being called Origin, this is one of the entries that should be watched at the very end of the Universal Century, for it relates to every other title from close or far. It is imperative to, at the very least, watch it after watching the original 79, otherwise you will spoil yourself some very key moments. Mobile Suit Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphan. Iron-Blooded Orphan is my #1 recommendation for people who just want a sample of the essence of Gundam. It excels in delivering every cool aspect of Gundam without forcing you into archaic visuals. If you're put off by the older animations from the 80s and the 90s, picking up Iron-Blooded will allow you to still enjoy the franchise as it is one of the best standalone titles. Mobile Suit Gundam Thunderbolt Season 1 and 2. While the Thunderbolt are considered by many as a spin-off from the 79 era, I think it's probably one of the most stunning entry visually, paired with a morally grey compass that showcased both sides of the war along with the tragedy and horror that comes with it. Bit lacking in pacing towards the second half, but a solid get-together. Mobile Suit Gundam Twilight Axis. Absolute dog poop. Worse than Reconquista in G, and an overall slap in the face would deserve to be wiped from the franchise itself. That's how bad it is. 6 episodes of 3 minutes each. It's 15 minutes wasted in the worst way possible. The yikest of yikes. Gundam Build Fighter Battlelog. Battlelog is a continuation of the present-day timeline, additional content for the Build Fighter. Hit or miss depending on how much you like this timeline. Gundam Build Fighters GM's Counterattack, a 1-episode sequel to the first Build Fighter series. If you want a bit more info on some characters, personally, I'm a bit lukewarm about it. Gundam Build Divers. And the last one from the Build series is Divers. If I can give you a parallel, think of them as Yu-Gi-Oh! Build Fighter is the original, Tri is GX, and Divers is the equivalent of, I don't know, Zexal. Still relies to the kit model formula, but doesn't have any ties to the other titles. All of the build ones are mostly geared toward kids, as opposed to the darker, heavier Gundam series we know. Mobile Suit Gundam NT. Remember Unicorn? Well, alongside the sequel it got, including F91 and Twilight Axis, was also NT. Very high quality and stunning production value, but doesn't offer a lot more. And finally, Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway's Flash. A trilogy of movies that haven't aired yet, but will be featured as a sequel to NT, and therefore squeezing itself in the early Universal Century. No idea what it's going to be about other than the rough synopsis they gave us so far. And that's all the broadcast order we have announced at the moment, but now we're going to talk about the actual chronological order. As stated before, there is multiple timelines, or rather universe in the Gundam franchise. Hopefully you've been picking up what I was laying down so far, so these terms will kind of make sense. There's Universal Century, UC, and Alternate Universe, AU, prominently. Some entries are standalone, especially in AU, and can be watched individually to everything else without confusing you, because they have no ties together. Think of them as one-shots, or like my previous analogy, Yu-Gi-Oh! And its spin-offs like GX or 5Ds, etc. However, UC requires a lot of sequential context, so let's unwrap UC first and make it more compact and to the point. You should imperatively start off with 79, no matter what, followed by Zeta, ZZ, and Shadow's Counterattack, all of which are mainline. Next up is 80, 83 Stardust Memory, 8 MS Team, and MS Igloo that are spin-offs, yet the chronological order is recommended. After that, you have Unicorn, a main title, Thunderbolt 1 and 2, Twilight Axis, if you must, and NT that are spin-offs, but finally you have Origin that should follow that at the end. Of course, we don't know yet, but we can assume that after that would be Hathaway's Flash, movie 1, 2, 3. And again, I must remind you that this happens in the early Universal Century, because way further in the future you have F91, Victory, and Gino Reconquista, which in my opinion are all lackluster. Late Universal Century, I don't like so much. Now on the other branch, you have Alternate Universe Timelines. Timelines, plural. This one is more lenient and allow you to watch them in any order you like because they don't interfere with each other. Again, Yu-Gi-Oh! Style. But I'll still give them some kind of order for consistency's sake. Starting off AU with Future Colony Timeline, G Gundam. Next up you have After Colony Timeline with Wing and Wing Endless Waltz. After that comes the After-War timeline with After-War Gundam GX, and the Cosmic Era timeline with Seed, Seed Destiny, and Seed Cosmic Era 73 Stargazer. We chain that up with the Anno Domini timeline, including Gundam 00 Season 1 and 2, followed by the 00 movie Awakening of the Trailblazer. Next is the Advanced Generation with Mobile Suit Gundam Age, and the present day timeline with all the Build 1s, Build Fighters, GM's Counterattack, Build Fighters Tribe, Battlelog, and Build Divers. The last timeline for the alternate universe is the post-disaster with Iron-Blooded Orphans and Iron-Blooded Orphan Season 2. Now, supposing you've been following this guide to a T, you might have noticed I forgot one. I have to mention Turn A Gundam. While technically being part of the Universal Century, it actually references a lot of other shows, therefore I recommend watching it after everything else listed for the maximum enjoyment. Overall, Turn A Gundam should be the last one you watch, and it is from the correct century timeline. And now, if you're still hanging in there, this is a super ultra squish list of recommendation from myself, personally. Hopefully veterans can chime in with their opinion. But for any newcomers who don't want to watch everything, those I recommend are 79, the original, Zeta, Shadow's Counterattack, War in the Pocket, 8 MS Team, Unicorn, and Origin from EUC. Or in any order from the alternate universe, Gundam 00, which is my favorite, Iron-Blooded Orphans, close second, Build Fighters if you're interested in model kits, otherwise nothing from the present day, Wing, Wing Endless Waltz, and Seed. G Gundam is aight too. And again, once you think you've seen all that you wanted to see, you should wrap up with Turn A at the end. It's gonna be worth it. Wow, you still listening to me after all this? Whether you're a casual or a veteran of the franchise that you've been following for years, there's no denying that Gundam is a mastodon of the anime world, especially in the mecha genre. And beyond being simply mech fighting each other, there's usually a deeper and often darker tone behind it all. My name is Misty / Chronexia, and now I'm gonna go collapse for a week because sorting this whole mess took me over a year of watching and researching. If you like me playing with the timelines, check out my other sorting hats. There's 5 episodes so far. We did the Toaru franchise, the Monogatari one, Danganronpa, and Haruhi Suzumiya. Maybe one of them interests you? They're all as good as this one, and since you made it to the end, I feel like you would like them too. I'll leave the playlist out, so check it out and click on it. Hopefully I cleared this timeline for you nice and neatly, and I'll see you in the next Chronexialogy.
the hard times, I've been on the wrong side, I've been ashamed. So many memories, you know I'd like to change.